make it for the regular session meeting. Roger should be here, before regular session, but maybe late for this one. So we'll maybe try to check in with Mike here in a few. Okay, that being said, does anyone have anything for a roundtable?
I'm curious, what's the latest on streetscape?
Sure. So we applied for the grant through the MEDC. We have met with Abbenmarsh over the past 2 days, finalizing, past 2 days, I mean today and Friday. We didn't meet over the weekend. Finalizing the construction plans and the spec book. The plan is to go out for bid in July. Bids will be received in August. Hopefully by then we will know where we stand with our grant application to the MEDC, as well as our other requests to the community for funding. And at that time, we will have a conversation with council on, is this a project that we can afford or not?
So,
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
were you going to add something to that?
I was just gonna say, at DDA, we kind of discussed streetscape as well, and Joel and Parker explained that they have kind of, I don't remember the term that you used, I apologize, but you're kind of scaling things back.
Yeah.
What did you
So
call
we're,
that?
we're looking at opportunities in the industry. It's called value engineering. So if we need to remove items, can we remove them? When we met with Abbenmarsh, some of the things we discussed were alternate beds, putting some of the items into an alternate bed, such as the benches, tables, other street furniture ideas, the trash cans, make that all an alternate bed. So if the construction for the water mains, the sewer lines, the services, the sidewalk, the asphalt all come in higher, we can, add those at a later date. We talked about making the plaza area an alternate bed. However, that would not save as much money as we thought we would if we would just not do the plaza. So in the response from the community, especially the surrounding business owners around the plaza, are so in favor of it, we just said, let's just keep that in there. We reduced the size of the planting beds around the individual street trees. They had 12-foot planting beds, so we reduced the size of those. That does two things for us. It reduces ongoing maintenance for the planting beds. It also creates more hard surface for the businesses, for like sidewalk sales and stuff like that, or A-frames, A-frame signs, etc. So yeah, that's what we've done over the past Friday and Saturday. We had about both the department heads, Doug Codsman and Doug Swears, were in those meetings. Their assistants that are part of that program. So Jeff Morey from the DPW, Sean Hauk from the water utilities, Parker Johnson, Tracy Stahl, and myself. So
When do we expect to have a final proposal on streetscape?
Probably August when the bids come in.
When the bids come in?
Yeah, and we know how much the cost really is.
So we'll have a design that goes to like MDOT and their.
Yeah, so the design is going to go out for bid this July, as I mentioned earlier. The design for the water utilities, because we received SRF funding. Is it C or D though? That's what I was thinking.
It's for the sewer system.
It's the sewer, so it's the clean water.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Clean Water SRF, which is a state revolving fund, they've already reviewed the plans. They'll have to go through those plans one more time. So that's going through that whole process to make sure it's designed to meet MDOT standards, or not MDOT standards, but EGLE standards for that project.
When will council review the design?
We've reviewed the design multiple times at council's level.
Well, what I'm hearing is we're doing value engineering, we're removing aspects.
Yeah, so for us to go out to bid, we are doing value engineering of listing things as alternate beds, and then the small reductions around the street trees. We can bring those back to council before we go out to bid, if council would like to go through that one more time. So yeah, we can do that.
It sounds like significant changes.
Yeah, I don't know
What is
yeah, in my opinion, the word significant probably isn't. They're not significant changes. there are, changes that have to be done with all construction projects we do.
It seems like having an idea of what we're going to do and how much, like an estimate for how much it costs would be important before we move through that bidding process.
Yeah, I would push back on that a little bit. I think going through the bidding process, especially in how everything's in flux right now when it comes to construction costs, we have to go through that process before we know where we land. Plus, with the grant applications that are out there, we need to ensure we have those grant applications.
But how do we know how much it's going to cost without?
So we have an engineer's estimate that was developed. And with the engineer's estimate, that gives us a gut check on where we are, and that was shared with council. We're now going into the, when it actually comes in for bid, we'll have an understanding. The Second Street Bridge is a good example. The engineer estimate was just shy of $1 million. We went out for bid, it came in at 1.2 million.
Well, it came in lower the first time.
No, it
and
did
then
not
we
come in, no, it did
delayed
not come in
again.
lower. The engineer estimate for the first time was just under 800,000, and it came in at $1 million. And MDOT and our engineers said, let's rebid this in the winter, spring, hoping that if the contractors had a longer time to plan for it, the prices would come in lower.
So what's
It still came in higher both times.
So when you're going out to bid, Joel, could you just explain, are you going out to bid with the plans that we have seen, just
Yeah.
with those items as alternates? Okay.
Yes.
So it's the same plan that
It's the
we
same plans
have,
as alternates minus,
but with stuff like, okay, we can pull this out if the
Yeah.
bid comes in too high.
and
So
just to be
it's-
clear, the one thing is, we did shrink the landscaping around the individual trees. That does not shrink the landscaping around the intersections, the brick seating walls you saw, those items. It's still very well landscaped. It was just around the individual trees where we had beach grass.
So that's really the only change that's been made, the shrinking of that
That
as it
item.
goes out to bid. But then when the bids come back, we can then say, okay, well, this furniture came in at this amount, that's an alternate, we're gonna take that out because it's too expensive. Okay.
And the goal is at that time, once we know where we're standing with that, then we, if council wants to, and if the community wants to, you can engage the community.
Is the estimate still $4.5 million?
Give me one moment. Let me pull up my email.
Well,
Any other
Joe's
questions from
doing that.
council?
Yeah, is there anything else about the streetscape in particular while he's looking that up? No?
Yeah, and just, let me see what I can find from Dan Dornbos on this.
I guess my questioning is more like, okay, so what are we actually pursuing at this point if we don't know what we can pay for and we don't know how much it's going to cost?
So I guess in my mind, Dave, we're pursuing the plans that we've been shown. And then if those come back and the estimates are to a point, we're all in agreement that we're not gonna go out to bond for 4.5 million. And, just depending on where that comes back is what actually gets done. So we need to know, in my mind, what that dream streetscape looks like. And then when it comes back, and if it's not, within our means, then we start taking out those alternate things. Yeah, we start slashing what we went out to bid for.
So let's compare it to a car. You go in, you order everything on your car with fancy wheels. It comes in, it's way too much more than what you want, so you start taking things off.
But I
I
don't-
don't need them fancy wheels, so let's,
I don't get this process because it's not buying a car, it's bidding for a project. Like when we had the Iron Bridge come back, we were told, oh, well, you needed to approve this a week ago and here it is and you got to go with it. So is that, what does it mean to have a
Sure, so-
bid and then change the design after we get the bid?
So let's go into reverse. Let me answer the first question you asked. So
Joel, if, on the Iron Bridge work over there, it seems to me, and maybe we addressed this just before I got in here, but the road that it leads to that is done and complete, but the bridge work is still done, and they found more to do. So if they would have dug into that and done the end of the bridge a little bit later, then maybe we could have decided if we want to keep it open as a drivable bridge or pedestrian bridge or what step to maybe go to. Those are some of the questions that I see, which there's brains out there that are bigger than me with the engineers and all that. They should know what procedure. I mean, you don't start putting the bushes in before you do the whole streetscape. So there's an order that they understand, but something went wrong over there.
And
Point, Mike.
Mike, I'll touch on that next, okay? So just if you don't mind, let's put pause on that discussion. So Dave, for the downtown streetscape, the roadway, so this is the asphalt, curb to curb, is gonna cost $2,475,656. The water pipes, $716,700. The sewer mains, $455,700. And then the streetscape portion, which is the sidewalks, benches, street trees, landscaping, light poles, receptacles, $1,625,297.50. That is what we call the engineer estimate. When we got that engineer estimate and we got the construction plans and the spec book, you then sit down with your engineer and you say, okay, let's go through this page by page. And we started on the title page. And we said, we don't like the way this word looks, and some of it's wordsmithing. And we say, you're using, let me finish, please. And you say, you're using the wrong spec for, this water tap, or this valve type, or this manhole. And we make corrections there as needed. There are minor corrections in that area. We then said, okay, how can we start reducing some of this cost? And we said, okay, let's go through and start reducing some of this cost. And at that time, we had an honest conversation about ongoing maintenance costs of landscaping around landscaping, which is landscaping around street trees, because street trees are landscaping. And that was one area I said, if we remove this, is it going to cost us more to put concrete in? Because I said, I think it's going to cost more to put concrete in. And actually, the engineers said, no, your plants that you're putting in here are kind of expensive. They go, this is how much a square yard of a concrete cost, and it's pretty much, a wash. And I go, okay, so we'll have less maintenance, cost the same, we'll have less ongoing maintenance, and we'll have more durable surfaces for our businesses, for, as I mentioned earlier, sidewalk sales, A-frame signs, et cetera, people to walk, people to hang out. I mean, tonight we're having our food trucks, and I guess according to Parker, we're slammed outside right now. The public has come out again on a hot, steamy night to enjoy downtown Allegan.
Okay, so just the numbers you gave me add up to 5.2 million.
$5,273,500, or $353.50 to be exact.
Yeah, about 5.2. So that's more than, that's 700,000 more than we were talking last time we talked.
The
No.
bonding that our bond attorney had suggested was the 4.5 million. That's the top amount that we would need to bond.
Okay, so
from
that
the
bond,
gen-
that 4.5 is, you're correct, Mayor. That is the limit for our general obligation, local tax bonding, or otherwise a municipal bond,
So our
or
plan was
bulk
to
bonding.
put towards the ARPA funds, which is
Our
526,000.
$526,000 from the ARPA funds.
That puts that down to 4.5.
$1 million out of our fund balance. We have to bond for the SWRF because that's a requirement for this project. And up to 20% of that bond could be forgiven.
I'm looking at the budget, I see $5,188,381 total project cost, and that line item is downtown streetscape.
But the bonding doesn't it just 3.2 or something? Is that the one?
There's 3 different bonds for that project.
Okay.
There's the water one, the sewer one, and the general obligation one, which is the 4.5. So everything else is water and sewer.
Okay,
Did that answer your question?
I still want to know how much the streetscape is and how we're paying for it.
We don't know how much the streetscape is right now, Dave. I mean, we've got to go out to bid. That's the engineer's estimate.
Yes.
So you take that and you go out to bid, and then they come back with actually what it is going to cost at
Right.
that moment.
But last time we went out to bid, by the time we got the bid back, we had to approve it, right?
So let's talk about the Iron Bridge. So we had a design that was approved by the previous council last year. And that was taking the Iron Bridge, doing the work we had to do to keep it operational for vehicles, In addition, we talked about a redesign of Second Street, which is the road between the Iron Bridge and M89, otherwise known as Marshall to the, locals here. We decided to make that a one-way entrance coming in. That was vetted through a traffic study by Marsh as we looked at, back in 2018 when we first started the discussion on the downtown streetscape. And that work was done first. When the decking was removed and before we started sandblasting the cross beams on the Iron Bridge is when we noticed we ran into an issue. So I don't know, Mike, if we would have taken up the decking and realized we have a $200,000 change order or $189,000 change order looking at us, if people would have said, well, let's not touch Second Street anymore. Because we had some issues with the design of Second Street. First, the pedestrian crossing of Second Street, if you are on the east side of Marshall walking north, that was like a 70-foot crossing, which is very unsafe for pedestrians. And it was at a bad angle, too. I mean, people were just swooping in onto Second Street, so we were trying to make it safer with that new design. So that's how we got there. If we would have just started with the bridge first, who knows? Maybe council may have said, we don't want to, touch the redesign of Second Street. We want to go ahead and address.
Isn't that an important point, though, that we knew the biggest risk would be in the Second Street Bridge? I mean, we've got a bridge report now from 2017.
I don't think so, Dave. I will push back on that one, too. I think the biggest risk is making pedestrian movement safer.
We could have done that as well. I mean, you're talking about a separate topic. The Iron Bridge itself, I think Mike's point was if we had gone in and inspected that completely and known what we were getting into there, we might have made a different decision. Instead, we kind of ended up in well, now you've got to do this.
Correct. The only way to inspect that completely, in my opinion, would be to remove all of the decking, all of the grading, invest, $50,000 in labor, materials, and storage to see what those beams are. It's similar to owning an old house.
We're in that
You
situation
rip up that
now.
carpet, you think it was wood floors that you can go ahead and, sand down and make pretty again. And the next thing you know, those wood floors are of 3 different kind of, types of wood, nails and screwed and glued in. And wow, now we can't have a pretty wood floor we thought we were going to have.
And we do have an engineer here today who has taken a look at these bridges, so I'm sure some of these questions could be directed to you, Ryan, is that correct?
And just real quick, because there's a third thing on the Iron Bridge, was that the urgency of approving the project, this year has to deal solely with the 375,000 small urban grant that we received from MDOT. We had to act on that at that meeting, or we would lose that 375,000. So if we would have chosen to pause at that time, if council would have chosen to pause at that time, you'd have lost the 375,000. And I can't speak for the majority of why council voted to move forward at that time. Maybe they felt that 375,000 was worth moving forward on, but that's a question for the other council members.
I would think the important point, though, is that the Second Street Bridge, we knew had issues. We've got a 2017 bridge report saying, hey, that this thing is rusting out and it's got issues. And if we had gone through and focused on that first, because the road parts are done now. The road parts were not the long pole, as we say in the project. So if we'd gone through and focused on the bridge first, we would have had more information and we could have made a better decision. And I think that carries through. One of the reasons it's important is that when we think about streetscape, a lot of our streets might have more going on underneath them than we realize. So it may behoove us to look into that before we start on the streetscape.
And how are we gonna look into that, Dave, unless we get into the streets? I mean, we've gotta get into them to see just like the bridge, we found those issues because we tore the decking off and we're gonna redeck it. I mean, that's how we found the issues with the Trestle Bridge too, is because there was something coming up and we had someone go out and take a look at it. But I guess I'm not sure, are you wanting just to, because at this point, this is like an infrastructure thing too.
Yeah.
We have lead and copper pipes down there that we have sewer that runs under buildings. Our sidewalks and our roads are falling apart. So,
If you haven't yet, take a walk on Locust Street Friday afternoon as we were preparing for Bridge Fest outside Aubrey's. we noticed a gigantic hole. There are cones on top of this hole now, alerting the public, hey, there's a tripping hazard here.
The question isn't whether or not we should invest in our streets. The question is, how are we gonna manage that and how are we gonna pay for it? Right? I don't need to walk downtown. I can walk my own neighborhood and see the streets are in rough shape. But if we're bidding out for a project that we haven't looked at the design, I haven't seen this design. And so, and then if we're in a situation where we've bidded the entire project, I guess I'm a little lost on where we're
So,
at.
yeah, I
here.
guess I don't see that the design has changed. Tracy, did you have something?
Well, I was just gonna say, Dave, I think too that, I think you're thinking that when we go out for bid, that we just have to accept that. You guys don't have to accept that when those come back. It's just a bid, it's just a quote.
So we're just gonna find out where we are in August and then,
And then we would bring that back to you and then we decide. We'll have more information on the grants, we'll have more information on the, actual cost, not just estimates from the engineers. We'll have quotes from construction companies. And then we can either accept them or not. We don't have to go forward. I mean, like with the bridge, we didn't at first and we waited till the spring.
that cost us.
Yep. Hindsight. Can't do anything about that now.
No, but we can do something about how we move forward.
Absolutely.
But we won't be able to make decisions without getting these quotes or bids.
Okay.
Any other questions about streetscape or anything for roundtable in general?
So just along that line, so when we get the quotes for what we are hoping for, and then in August or whenever we find out what we actually have to spend, then we can go back to those companies and say, we need to adjust this and you need to adjust your quote accordingly, correct? So we can always make those changes when we need, we just need to have a starting point. Is that what I'm hearing?
Anything else for roundtable before we move on? No? Okay, so next we have a presentation from the Allegan Community Players. Staff, did you want to give us a quick rundown? You can come on up.
Yeah, very quickly, the community players submitted a memo in your packet, looking for ways to partner with the city even more than they already do, and helping, maintain the Griswold and keep it open.
Do I just press this button to?
Yeah, please, welcome. Could you introduce yourself for us?
Hello, I'm Mason Haas, the current president of the Allegan Community Players. Some of you may know the Allegan Community Players have been using the Griswold since its beginning. It's built. But there was a gap in 2006 where the board decided to move the musicals in the summer to the Allegan Performing Arts Center in the high school. But in 2018, we decided to commit ourselves full-time to the Griswold, making it our home again. With this in mind, and considering all the needs that the Griswold has and that needs to be done, we would like to help with any maintenance costs that are available and that we can help with. As a nonprofit, we don't necessarily always have the most money, but we would like to help to pay for things nonetheless to make our home more nice. This includes like donations of funding or time, just anything we can to keep it going good. The players currently rent the place for a special price of $25 an hour for the 80-hour minimum annual usage for a total cost of $2,000 a year. In addition to that, we would also like permission to work with the city in giving our time and talent and resources to help with ongoing maintenance to the Griswold Auditorium.
Well, thank you. I can't accept for all of council, but personally, I accept. Council, do you have any questions at all?
I saw this in the packet, and I was actually really touched because you weren't asking, you were giving. And what a great thing. I mean, if we can work with them, let's just keep this marriage working. And, I trust that staff will do the best they can to accommodate all the resources that they have. And
Well said, Mike. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
So I agree with Mike, and I'm just glad that the Allegan community players are back at home at the Griswold. That's great, and thanks for your offer, your generosity. That's much appreciated.
Thank you.
And thank you for being involved with the community players. Years ago, have done some plays, but it's nice to see some new faces involved and to know that it's continuing, because I know that there was a time when the future was uncertain for the players. So it's really lovely to see that they do have a future again. So thank you. Anybody else?
I too would like to thank you. My daughter was involved at the Griswold with the production of Annie. It was wonderful down there, and it was just great. So thank you for your offer. It's greatly appreciated.
Is there anything you need from council or from staff, or is that something, I know Ryan, I believe, is involved with the board, and he's
So
also
any-
city staff?
Any questions or anything, I'll have Ryan bring up to you.
Okay,
All right,
great,
thank you, guys.
thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a discussion and update regarding the Trestle Trail Bridge. Staff.
Yeah, so Ryan Warden is with Scott Engineer. They're the engineering firm we use for our bridge inspections. This is a continued discussion that council's had about the Trestle Trail. You'll recall at your last meeting, you asked staff to temporarily, close it until further notice, until we get a better handle of the safety. We reached out to Ryan. We had him do what I'm going to consider a more complete engineering evaluation of that. He put a memo together for you. It's in your packet. And, we're hoping for this time just to have a general discussion about the future of the bridge, what we need to do, as a community.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Ryan Warden. I work for Scott Civil Engineering, and I'm a certified bridge inspector through MDOT and completed the inspection of the Trestle Bridge. So I know most of you have questions, so please fire those away. It's
Ryan,
like
Oops, I'm so sorry. to
I
interrupt.
just wanted to say, the top, looking at it from the top, the decking's fine, the beams are fine, it's down below, the supports for what we call the superstructure, the deck and that's where the issue lies. And in your packet, you'll see all those pictures in there, and there's some concerning areas on several of those piers out there. And go ahead with any questions.
I was just going to ask you to give us a quick rundown. So, I know that you included like each cap and the piers and everything and what your findings
Yes.
were for each of those. Could you just speak maybe to the safety of that Trestle Street or
Well,
Trestle Bridge?
say, you got some pictures up behind here. I don't know if everybody can see those on their computers, but the first one on the left, to my left there, that's Pier 1S, so that'd be the first one from the south end of the bridge. When I initially got out there, the ends look rotted, but when I pulled up with the boat, I was able to stand on the boat, get up there and hammer on that. That's when I punched through the bottom, and I could take my hammer, which is a rock hammer. It's got, a little hook on the back. I could take that and spin that right through there. It's just turned into sawdust inside of that. So the creosote or whatever that they used back then to treat that, to prevent the decay, only penetrated the outside, maybe 1 inch of that. And once it starts checking, it's like cracking on the top. Water gets in there with the rain. You see some of those pictures are trees growing out of there. So all that just indicates that rot. So once that gets going on the inside, it just rots from the inside out. And that one's concerning. That it's just a shell that's left there. So most of the section, probably 85 to 90% of the section of that cap is gone, rotted out from the inside. So that doesn't give much capacity left. And my recommendation in my letter saying I would restrict all vehicular traffic whatsoever. Pedestrians can cross, but I wouldn't have any kind of events out there for safety concerns and that. So it'd be just minimal use.
You mentioned it's difficult to load rate for a specific amount of people and sign for compliance. What does that mean?
Well, it's, like with road bridges, you see the posting sign out there. That's a regulatory sign. So by law, only a vehicle up to that tonnage can cross that. And the police can can enforce that by being a regulatory signing. Pedestrians are not, there's no regulatory signing for pedestrians. You can put a sign out there, but who's gonna sit and watch and make sure that only 10 people cross at a time or 50 cross at a time? It's nearly impossible to do.
Well, when I ride in elevators, I see maximum occupancy, 15 people. And that lets me know, hey, we shouldn't have more, and that lets everybody else in the elevator know we shouldn't have more than 15 people.
Sure.
Is there a way to do that for a bridge?
I've never seen it done, not to say that we can't do that, but it is possible.
But,
It's not a standard operating procedure, that's for sure.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But, so your recommendation was a quarter ton, which is 500 pounds. So that's vehicular, but if Bill and I were out there, we're probably closing in on 500 pounds, just the two of us. So as pedestrians, so how is it different? How is the weight of 2 or 3 grown men out there different than a golf cart or an ORV or,
Well, if you-
how is that?
Yeah.
Is
I
there a
mean,
difference?
Technically, there's not a difference. A live load is a live load, whether it's a vehicular load with an axle pressing down on the deck, or if it's a gathering of people in one area.
Yeah,
Both of those are live loads, so technically, no, there's not.
yeah, that makes
a
me
difference.
nervous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
You know, initially I said occasional walkers, you know, just someone walking through, going to town and back, and that's fine. I don't have an issue with that, but we still want to maintain eyes on that. So whether it's a DPW person goes out and just keeps an eye on things and that. And maybe every 6 months have a detailed inspection just to check to see if the cap is crushing more, if there's any other decay that would.
Now, that 6-month inspection time frame, I'm curious about that. Does that imply that, like, within 6 months, we may see deterioration to the point
It's
that we shouldn't
possible.
use it?
Because right now, this is our baseline. What I went out there and saw, before I was out there, back when Aaron was working here, I just kind of looked through and just did an overall look. It was flooded at the time, so it wasn't able to get a boat in or anything, so there was no detailed inspection completed. So with that, between then and now is a detailed inspection, I have more of a baseline of the deterioration rate out there, and then we can see how it progresses from there. Maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's 10 years, I don't know. But right now, this inspection is the baseline for that deterioration.
Yeah, the 2017 report said, you in there said a load limit of 6,000 pounds?
Yes,
And
that
now we're
was
at
without,
500.
that's without seeing the issues with those caps.
And in this report, you even call it in the introduction a preliminary inspection. Is there more information that would help make a determination about safety?
I'd say at this point, it's a judgment call for me. By saying no vehicular traffic whatsoever and minimal pedestrian traffic. If there's any concern whatsoever, I would shut it down and just prohibit everybody from crossing.
And you just said no vehicular traffic, so the
Yeah.
500 pound is,
I don't recommend
None.
any. You say you allow 500 pounds, now you have 4 golf carts all coming out together, and they all stop
Right.
in one spot, and I
or
don't know
one
what's
golf
going
cart
on.
with 3 people. We've already established 3 people way more than.
Yes, right. Yeah. So this is a critical condition bridge, so,
Sounds like it.
yeah.
And a minimum of $500,000 to get it to where it's not.
Yeah, we recently had a project last year. It was a similar type bridge. It was a rotted cap, just like this. The difference there was that one was near the end of the bridge, and it was only one. And the contractor had to bring a crane out there, hold up the 2 spans to get a new pier cap underneath there. Here, you're talking out into the middle of the river. How are you going to support that? You're talking about getting barges in there or other equipment in to do this kind of work, so. Yeah, then, I mean, it's a ballpark estimate, how close it is, I don't know.
Yeah.
I know it was 150,000 just to do the one at the end with a crane, so. So you add them all up and it'll be costly for sure.
So
Any
who's-
other questions, council?
Yeah, who's responsible for kind of final call on engineering decisions for the city?
What do you mean by that?
Is it? Well, I mean, we've got bridges that get inspected every 2 years, and we've got this bridge, and we've heard from this engineer, there wouldn't be a recommendation to open it. But then, like in the staff report from May 23rd, we've got like, open it with pedestrians and weights up to 500 pounds. And so that's the last staff recommendation I've seen. Is it, like, should we be reviewing these bridge reports? Do we make the call as a council whether a bridge is safe or not, or shouldn't we be getting?
I would think that would be our DPW staff and, I don't know, combination with Joel and the engineers themselves to come up with a decision, and then they bring that recommendation to council.
Yeah, let's say if we had to close a bridge or something for a structural issue, I would think, the DPW would bring it to council and would
Get it
discuss that
closed.
for sure, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it sounds like we're here right now. How much does the city golf cart weigh?
I don't know that answer.
Gotta be more than 500, right?
Yeah, I don't know what ours even weighs.
I don't know.
So Ryan, you said this is a judgment call to open the, because we closed the bridge after we got your initial report, just
Sure.
because it was, especially like those photos were just mind-boggling to see the state of that. So, would your recommendation as an engineer be to keep it closed to
I'd keep it closed.
pedestrian traffic as
Only
well?
reason I put the pedestrian part in there is I know people will get, if they're on the other side of the river and need to get into town for essential services, you might need occasional crossings of people. And I'd hate to have to restrict them to do that. But, if you left it open to those people, I'd still want, monthly checking on there to make sure this is still safe.
Well, I would want to inform those people with a sign that says, hey, no more than, 2 people sounds like the most we could even justify at this point. No more than 2 on the bridge at a time.
Yeah,
And even if people disobey that sign, at least they
at
know.
least it's there, and then, yeah, it's,
I would think we have a moral obligation for that.
exactly, yeah. And definitely.
But
I
that
don't
may
know-
invite, I'm gonna say kids, but there's other people it may invite that say, hey, it says only 2 people, let's get 5 of us on there, let's rock it, let's,
Yeah.
sometimes that works the wrong way.
And right now, all it says is closed by order of city council. And gosh, I think I could scale over those 2x4s we put up there. So man, are we in the same boat right now even? Like,
So are you comparing yourself to Spider-Man?
4
We're gonna
2x4s. I
put
mean,
nets over it? I mean,
Well,
we can
may-
only do so much to prohibit people from going across a pedestrian bridge. If they're gonna jump it with a sign that says it's closed,
but maybe a sign that says closed for safety, closed because it's
Some of us have a
unsafe.
challenge putting our foot on a chair to tie our shoes, but just saying.
Teresa, did you have something?
I'm with you. I mean, we can only do so much to keep people off stuff.
Yeah, but shouldn't we
know.
do everything we can to keep people safe? I mean,
I'm not
within
saying we
reason.
can't put a sign up there, Dave, I'm just saying, if someone's gonna scale it they're gonna scale it
gonna
with a
do
sign
it
or without
with
a
or without.
sign. I mean, I'm happy to put one up because that would help with liability for the city, clearly. But,
Is there one up there already?
It
yeah,
just
and
says
somebody
closed
already tore down
by order of
our
city
first
council. Yeah,
Attempt, right.
attempt.
So what do you want
so-
to put up there, David?
closed for safety. It's a dangerous bridge. We should label it a dangerous bridge.
Well, you could close it
Right.
with chain link fence or something and strap it to the ends of the rails.
The physical part of it, I think, is, I mean, we got 2x4s nailed across it. That's great.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, right now it says closed by order of city council. Yeah, a little
Trying to
more
do more information, but you said that you could scale it, so it seemed to me like you were asking for a little bit more,
I think
more
we should-
More
impactful.
information, yeah.
We should go out
That's
after
what I
the
was-
meeting, I wanna see you climb that.
I'm not gonna get on the bridge. I'll climb up on top of the 2x4s, but.
So, I think you bring up a good point, though, because I know, like, people on North Street there's probably people that don't have vehicles that are walking that bridge to get to.
There's a,
Village Market
there's
or-
a sidewalk on North Street that goes to the sidewalk on the river, that goes to the sidewalk
Yeah,
on Grant.
That's true.
They're not physically disconnected.
It's just,
They
yeah,
have to go around a little bit, but there is a pedestrian path that connects all.
that's true. Yeah, you're right, Joel.
Yes, at Bridge Fest, I got talked to by one of the residents that used that to go across to the playground. He was a little upset. But it's for his safety.
Yeah, he'd be upset if the bridge collapses on it.
Well, that's what I tried to tell him, but
Rosie
for some reason he
Hunter,
didn't understand.
last week, Rosie Hunter came to see me at City Hall. She's very dissatisfied that council closed the bridge. She goes, "You don't have walkers on council. They don't know what it's like to walk." And I'm like, "Well, I think some walk, Rosie." She goes, "My husband wrote the grant to convert it from a train track bridge when it was just railroad ties." And she goes, we want to cross it just on railroad ties." And I'm like, "Well, it's a different."
We used to stand up in the front seat of the car too.
Yeah.
And we don't do
And so
that.
I just said it's a different time is all I mentioned. So you do have some people concerned. We can put up a different sign. I would offer, while it may not be an MDOT regulated sign, we could put up signs that say no more than one person at a time kind of a thing. I mean, when you talk about regulated signs, MDOT has, we called it the MDOT Bible, that has, these are all the signs, and the signs have to be to these exact specifications. And there's not a pedestrian sign,
No.
per se, in that MDOT Bible.
I'm not interested in opening it up at all. I label it a dangerous bridge. It's a dangerous bridge.
I don't really want to see it open based on the report. One or two people crossing it. I mean, that's a fishing bridge, so a lot of people stand there and fish. And I don't know that if it's open at all, that people will not continue to do that regardless of what the sign says, like you said. I mean, it's hard to monitor, but
But if you have the signs there, that's great. It's like you say, liability things, so,
Yeah.
covers.
Yeah, I hate to be overly cautious, but if that bridge collapsed with people on it and we hadn't closed it, I don't know how I'd live with myself.
Okay, were there any other questions about the Trestle Bridge?
Well, I mean, the next question in my mind is what are we gonna do other than close it? I mean,
Yeah, that's gonna take some discussion.
so, yeah, what's our plan here?
I don't know. I think I need to kind of process that we're gonna close it and then figure out whether it's gonna be something worth the 500,000 to get it fixed or more.
Yeah, so the 500,000 is just for, that's an estimate on the caps. We haven't gotten a real engineer estimate.
Right, that's, real ballpark.
Yeah.
Do we need to send this out to bid, like the streetscape?
Yeah, so there are grants through the DNR. Scott Beltman's in the audience. He also reached out to me about this issue. There's 3 silos of funding at the DNR, and Scott reached out to the DNR, and the lady or the person that oversees those programs was, I don't want to use the words excited, but she said, yeah, there's funding for this kind of project. One of the comments is, do we want to keep a bridge there? I hear from people who live on Lake Allegan, they'd like to see the bridge go away so it's easier to get their boats downtown. And how cool would that be, Joel, if you have little boats come downtown and they park outside, Schaendorf? Maybe we design a clear span bridge that's possible for boats to go downtown as well as people to walk over it. Maybe it has a little arch into it. We can get really creative. It just gets, the dollar figure is with all the other pressing needs. When you look back that, on the road presentation you had at your last meeting, and, where we are with our roads right now, so. That streetscape, it's just one more kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Is that something that Mr. Liggett's engineering team may be able to assist in?
I'm never gonna say no to stuff like that, but with something like this, we're gonna wanna do it, lack of a better phrase, the traditional way. We're gonna wanna hire an engineer to design it that can stamp the permit, the plans, get the appropriate permits, because we're within 500 feet of a stream, the river. There's a lot of boxes that have to be checked off. If we get state funding, there's an environmental review we have to do on this project, because it's probably federal pass-through funding that we would get. So there's a little, just some boxes we have to check. And if he wants to bid on the construction, because they do steel fabricating, so we can go ahead and, they can bid on the project, and if they want to give us a hometown discount, if that's where you're going. I'm not sure if that's where you're going, but,
I'm not sure, I just know that they get things approved for all over the world with the stuff they build,
yes,
so.
correct.
So are we going to see options for, is that what everybody's thinking? We want to see options for the Trestle Bridge?
So staff's recommendation is if you're looking to keep it closed, we will update the signage. That this bridge is, closed, we'll put up no trespassing signs. I mean, we'll do what we can do to make it very clear human beings should not be on that bridge. We have a lot of irons in the fire right now. We can start the process of getting some estimates from some engineering firms on what it would cost to design. Because you gotta pay for the design work up front. So we'll have to look into that, and we'll start the conversations, with the state. With all funding, there's a match, there's a local match. It's not just money that's out there. You gotta, contribute your own, 20% typically is what a requirement is, for the grant we're applying for Rossman Park improvements. That was a 20% match. So we can just put that on our list of projects and start looking at it.
Do we need to vote? We can't vote
We
and
can't-
study.
yeah, we don't make
How do
any-
we,
I don't think this requires a vote.
to
Just
keep it
continue to
closed?
keep it.
It's
Does everyone
I mean,
in-
the signs say, and the motion you made last time was to close it until further notice.
Okay.
So that
So we're
order
vote-
still stands. We'll go out and we'll add better signage, and we'll add the no trespassing signage, which we can do.
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, Dave, options would be great. I mean, I just need personally to kind of think about what I would like to see there before I direct staff to go out and get estimates or bids on something that I don't know what I want it to look like personally yet.
I also had residents approach me about if we rebuilt it to have it, to be a span bridge that boats could go under, because they wanted to be able to come up into the downtown on their boats, so it is something to think about.
Is that something, Joel, that we can request comes back on a study session in the near future?
Sure, yeah. I mean, we'll get on it. We'll start having our conversations. I'm looking at Doug. If you want to, I'm looking down at the audience, but, we'll start that process, And we'll keep you updated as we move forward, as we move through it.
Should we consider like a load limit inspection for that boardwalk bridge that we were talking about?
Just so we're not dealing with the same issue and we're unaware of it.
Correct. Because what we've heard is pedestrian bridges don't get inspected. What we saw was like an Abin kind of once over, here's some things we see that are issues. But now, I'm grateful for Ryan here to let us know kind of what to expect from an engineering report. And I think that load limit sounds like an important factor to understand here. If we're not normally going to hear from an engineer, well, don't have more than 20 people on that bridge. If that's not something they'll normally say to us, then at least get them to say, well, it shouldn't have more than 10,000 pounds, or it shouldn't have more than 5,000 pounds.
Before we get into that bridge, I just wondered if anyone had any questions for Ryan about Second Street Bridge. Mike, you had brought up a question about like process and finding more issues once you ripped up, the decking and we're doing the sandblasting. Is that something that you can speak to at all?
Yes, absolutely. Like Manager Dye mentioned, that it's a little more unique out there because that bridge is so much farther off the water level than the Trestle Bridge, so I can't just bring my little John boat and stand up on it and hit it with a hammer. The city has provided pontoons, and I have to get a ladder out there, stand up on top of the ladder to get to it. So I'm dealing with the wind and the flow through there, so it makes it very difficult to stabilize and stand on a ladder to go through and do a detailed beam end inspection on that.
Don't metal structures sometimes get like an X-ray visualization or an X-ray diffraction?
There is techniques that you can do that for, it's called NDT, non-destructive testing, and there's different versions of that, yes, that can be done. Typically, that's more for the welds that's used for. Out there, it'd be removing all the rust and seeing what's underneath it, because as rust keeps expanding and expanding, it piles up on top of the steel. And you gotta sit there and you gotta hammer all that off to see if there's any deterioration below there. Obviously, you have rust or some deterioration, whether that's holes or just a little bit of section loss of the steel.
So at this point, would you come back before the project is completed and do a full assessment and say, yes, this bridge can hold X number of tons?
Yes. And I would not recommend increasing the loading that's out there. It's posted at 4 tons because it's so old and it preserves the longevity of this bridge to keep it going forward. I would not put heavier traffic out there. I'd keep trucks off it.
Would you be able to give us an estimate of, I guess, depreciation of the structure over time? So how many years we would expect it to be sound for 4 tons?
Sure. I know that's a matter of how much maintenance work you put into it. Like what we're doing now, you're going to have to do that every so often and keep on it as we go forward.
And that would be
Yeah.
good to know, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's not cheap, right? I mean, that's
No,
closing
no,
the bridge
no, not
down,
at all.
taking everything out,
This
just like,
type of bridge is very costly to maintain. You're talking all steel, and you have the grading that's open, and you have the traffic coming across there, and all the salts are being brought up
Yeah.
onto the bridge and settles down onto those beam ends. So it's these types of bridges take a lot of maintenance work. So
yeah.
And those are inspected every 5 years?
2 years.
2 years,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just piggybacking off of Councilmember Redding's question, is it standard that you do after the construction project is complete, do you automatically go out there and inspect
Yes,
again?
there'll be another post-construction inspection, and that will be reported, and the city will receive those copies too, so, yeah. And along with the construction, I've been out there with Abin Marsh and Doug. We met many times out there to take a look at the condition and make an assessment on all that stuff, so.
So it'll be your opinion that some of that deeper, the issues that just came up, those would not have been visible prior to?
I knew there were gonna be some, it was more than I expected.
Okay,
Without, like you said, either tear the deck off and access it from the top, or have to build some kind of platform down below and scaffolding to get up in there and have it stabilized, and
I mean,
to really get up in there.
based off the condition that you found the bridge in most recently, is it your assessment that the bridge was safe for 4-ton vehicles at the last time it was used?
Yeah, well, these are the stringers. The steel truss itself is a whole different load rating on that. And that's what's controlling the load rating out there is the steel truss members themselves. Where these are the steel stringers, so you have multiple steel stringers under there. And then there's transverse timbers that distribute the load on top of those all the way across, so. There was no buckling in those stringer ends, that's indication of overloading. Didn't see any of that out there, but definitely deterioration on those ends with the buildup of the salts and dirt and whatnot, so.
But you inspected the trusses, and those are sound, they
Yeah,
can
the
hold the
truss looks
4-ton?
good, yeah. It's just those right underneath the deck, which is separate from the truss itself.
So Ryan, what type of maintenance could be done to prolong these expensive maintenances? Like
That's a very good
washing the
question.
salts off and
Exactly.
like,
Bridge washing is a thing, especially steel structures to get that salt off. But again, it's hard to reach all those because you're gonna have the timber outside of the steel grating, and to wash underneath those, you'd have to come from underneath and power wash somehow, so it's.
well, Doug doesn't have anything else to do.
But
Okay,
yeah, that is a technique, yeah.
okay.
Yearly wash or something like that. So.
Yearly, is it?
Yearly, like
Yearly?
probably after the
Yeah,
winter
right,
and,
yeah,
yeah,
in the spring would be perfect time,
Yeah.
yes.
when everything else needs to be done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did anyone else have any questions for Ryan about the bridges that he's inspected? Those 3 bridges that were in our report?
Well, I have I guess just a general infrastructure question. Have you ever, and I don't know if you get into this type of inspection, have you ever inspected the powerhouse for our dam?
No, little bit of dam
Yeah.
inspection, small stuff, nothing
Okay.
like out here, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it's bad news. I mean, that was a question I got during the Bridge Fest. It's, what's going on with the dam? When's it gonna be removed? Do we know what the timeline is? I imagine the timeline's pushed out, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought, wow, on the Tittabawassee River, there's folks going to jail over that, right? And the last I heard, the powerhouse is not insurable. Is that right? That's what we know.
That is what we know, and I would not conflate what happened in Midland with the City of Allegan. That is a privately owned dam. They were told by state regulators to make improvements, and they ignored those requirements.
Well, it stands out to me that it's not insurable, because when you're paying for insurance, the insurance company's almost taking a bet, like, okay, yeah, you pay us 10 grand and nothing's probably gonna happen to you, we'll keep your 10 grand, but if it does, then we got you covered. What the insurance company is saying is there's not an amount of money you can give us. You couldn't give us $500,000, not taking that bet, so what do they know that we don't know? That's my question. Why are we taking that bet? Because if it's $500,000 that it's gonna cost to secure that so that it doesn't break, and if we haven't inspected it, you're right, it's bad news. How would
Ryan,
we?
I think you can have a seat.
Okay.
We'll let you know if there's any other questions for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess my question is, what's the state of that structure?
Joel, can you speak to that? This came up briefly at DDA
Yeah,
as well.
I just
We were
texted
looking at
our
the-
insurance counselor.
Okay.
And Phil will be here later this evening when we address our insurance counselor. So the question is, what is the state of removal of the dam, or what is the state of the powerhouse?
How safe is the powerhouse?
Well, no one can access the powerhouse. There's a no trespassing.
The powerhouse is holding back water, right? The dam holds back water, the powerhouse holds back
Okay.
water.
And it's been holding back water. I would say it has been holding back water for, a hundred years. I think it was 1905.
How much longer will it hold back water?
I do not know that answer, Dave.
Right, and when I was on council last time, which was a number of back, it was said that there were repairs to do not fire up those generators. So we know that there's something structural. What liability does that put the
Right.
city at?
So the dam is included for liability, the powerhouse is excluded, is what I just got from text message. I would say we're doing no harm right now. We aren't allowing people to go on there. We are not doing earth movement in that dam. When the gentleman from Iowa wanted to purchase the generators, we said no, because we weren't gonna remove the generators from that structure.
What about like the big rainfalls, like big rainfalls we're getting lately? How much rain would it take to knock that powerhouse out? And all that water from the Morrow Dam down just comes rushing right through that mill race.
Yeah, I'm not gonna answer hypothetical questions, sorry.
Bill, have
it-
you guys talked about anything in the Riverfront Design Committee
About that?
about the powerhouse?
We haven't discussed any of that. We haven't gotten any, we got something coming back for the coming up one. I can't tell you exactly what it is, but we haven't had our meeting yet.
The meeting is Wednesday, correct. Yep.
Do we know how far out it is until that whole structure gets addressed.
That's up to Eagle.
Have they given
No,
us any
they do
kind of
not,
time?
no.
We don't have any idea?
Correct.
They just said 2028, ballparking, no, nothing.
It's all ballpark.
Is it-
That, it is the potential responsible party negotiations that's occurring with the E EPA.
Is everybody comfortable with that situation? I'm hearing we don't know how much rainfall it would take to cause it to collapse. We don't have insurance on it. We don't know when it's gonna get addressed.
I don't know what our options are.
Well,
And it's scheduled to be removed, but
get it inspected, find out if it's dangerous or not, and if it's dangerous, do something about it. Sounds dangerous.
That's already been taken care of, hasn't it? That's why we're removing it, because it is dangerous.
So, I mean, we don't know the timeline for when it gets removed.
We do not. That is not until DNR tells us.
And so in the meantime, we're just gonna hope that, I mean, I'm
Is
asking a
that
simple
being
question
inspected?
about-
My understanding is that that's inspected by staff periodically. Is that correct? Do you guys go out there and inspect the powerhouse?
So I do not believe that the powerhouse is on a routine inspection, except for our cursory drive-by inspections that we do of all of our city properties. When we see something that looks awry, we, try to address it. The 30% removal plans that AECom has developed for the dam, the powerhouse, and the mill pond, which is part of the $360,000 grant we got from the EPA, has a price tag associated with that we're gonna discuss with the Riverfront Design Committee on Wednesday. Now, I wanna repeat, the 30% plans has a price tag. Until we get to close to 100% construction removal plans, we don't have a true engineer's estimate on where we are with that. But it's in the millions for the city of Allegan. And it's probably going to be more than what our downtown streetscape is. Not as much as replacing the Trestle Bridge. There is a lots and lots of infrastructure that this city has that has not been maintained. In 2000, I don't know what their study was done in 2000, when the city chose to purchase those two dams from Imperial Carving. But for one reason, a previous council made a decision to acquire those two pieces of infrastructure and make it a public, ownership instead of a private ownership.
Is there concern from full council to have, I don't know, regular walkthroughs of that? I don't know what it would all entail. I mean, I know that's part of the dam removal, and that's pretty much what I know.
Right now, we know that we don't know when it's gonna collapse. It could happen
I mean,
anytime.
Hypothetically, Dave, we don't know if the road's gonna collapse. I mean, we had a sinkhole on Hubbard Street that happened. We can't, I think,
That's why you get it inspected though, right? Like, we could say, we could have said the same thing about the Trestle Bridge a month ago. We got it inspected, holy crap, it's
Right,
dangerous.
exactly.
And then we were able to respond to it. Shouldn't we get that powerhouse inspected and somebody tell us, yeah, you've got, 3 inches of good rainfall and that thing's gonna blow, you should probably reinforce it until it's time to remove it completely. I would wanna know that if there's something we can do to prevent, because that's catastrophic. And right now, we know the insurance company's not taking the bet. The insurance company's saying, I'm not taking your money on that powerhouse because it's too much for me. I'm out.
I don't know if I'd use the words it's catastrophic. In 2017, we had a ice flow backup on the Kalamazoo River, and the Mill District Peninsula flooded. At that time, Perigo Corporation was doing a stream bank restoration of their AEO East building, or AOE, their AOE building, I believe they call it, the corporate building. It ate away a little bit at that bank. And then we had some flooding down at Andy's Ace Hardware. And then other than that, we had no flooding. By flooding, I mean the small parking lot that didn't even get up to his building. And Andy's Ace Hardware is the lowest point on the Kalamazoo River in downtown Allegan. I would offer if, I want to caution the whole of the council on using words like catastrophic and, phrases that might heighten a situation where a situation doesn't need to be heightened of yet. We have taken the appropriate steps. As part of our insurance program, we are audited by Tokyo Marine, who is our insurance carrier. They go look at all of our parks, look at our publicly, owned assets. They interview all of our department heads on the buildings that they're responsible for maintaining. The last time they did our audit was a year and a half ago. It was during COVID.
The inspection
The
on the bridge.
Tokyo Marine audit.
Oh,
Yeah, it was.
I also have an inspection report that I'm looking at that states that it was previously inspected by Lawson Fisher in 99, 2002, 2005, and 2008. And subsequently, Eagle staff inspected the dam in 2008, 11, 14, and 17. And then there have been other structural inspections in 2008, 11, 13, and 15, and 17.
And that included the powerhouse?
Yep. Powerhouse structure consists of two sections, an older section to the west and a newer section to the east.
It hasn't been 5 years since we've inspected it, has it?
This inspection was from 2021.
This one, what, you're looking
One
at
I'm
a
reading at.
2021 inspection of the powerhouse. And could we,
Do you want me to send this inspection to everybody?
Sure.
It was 2020, I just have it saved as of 21, so.
Okay, we can take a look at that. Was there anything else for a roundtable? Any other questions for Ryan?
Parker, did you place the food trucks in certain spots, or was it just first come to this area gets it, or?
Nope, everybody had their own designated spot tonight, and will have for the next, 13 weeks, I think, total. So yeah, and there are event maps, so everybody can know what truck is where. That's on our Facebook page, and then we've got QR codes throughout the downtown that people can scan with their phone and tap a link and find that map right there on their mobile device as they're down here. Those went up this morning, so they were up all day and through the end of the event.
That was very nice to know who is gonna be where.
Perfect, good.
Pick your spot and hurry.
Exactly.
And thank you very much for putting the ice cream truck right there.
I did that for you, Mike.
Excellent.
Love that Num Num Ninjas were here for lunch. Like, that was
It was a happy accident.
great. It was an accident. I was hoping that was gonna be their plan.
Roger, you missed roundtable too. Did you have anything?
No, it was a great weekend, with, Rolling on the River. The first one was packed, and Bridge Fest seemed to go really well, a lot of attendance, and it was good all the way around for a good kickoff events.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did the ORV ordinance kick in yet?
So ordinance is going to affect 20 days after the second reading. I'll have to look in that. I would tell you, yeah, and I would tell you that people are already violating. I see them on M220. I saw a golf cart crossing the Kalamazoo River Bridge on M222. So it's not just the ORV people, but I saw a golf cart when the blockage went in. They were just scooted across, nice and safely, I hope.
Yeah,
But-
it was.
I know one of those. I know one of those.
It was not you I saw. It was two elderly ladies.
Is there anything else? Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
I'm
Teresa.
sorry. That's why I'm really disappointed about the Trestle Street, or the Trestle Bridge. Makes it very difficult to get from out there downtown, so. But, we have to be safe, and I get that, so.
Speaking of Trestle Bridge, anything else on that before we move on to the expenditures report? No? All right, so we'll do a review of April and May revenue and expenditures reports. Council, did you have any questions over those reports that Tracy provided for us? No? Tracy, did you have anything that you wanted to go over?
The only thing that I would like to point out is that we went live with the chart of accounts change, and I have, with the surgery that I had and the mini vacation my husband planned for us, I haven't had a chance to update or figure out an easy way to get that because this report comes straight out of BSNA, and there's not a report that shows the old and the new. So I would have to import or export it to Excel, and I have not done that yet, so I apologize, because I promised you guys I would give you the old and new, and I have not done that yet, so that's the only thing I would point out. But if you have any questions on it, you guys can email me, and I can let you know.
Was that a pretty easy transition for you? No?
It could be worse, I will say that, but it's, I've been doing it for 17, 18 years, and I've got most of those numbers memorized, and the revenues don't print with the departments anymore. And so it's just different.
Stuff.
It's change, but
Yeah.
it'll be okay.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions for them, we have a review of the council agenda. Council, did you see any additions, corrections? Staff, are there any amendments that need to be made? No? Only thing that I have to say is if Peter isn't able to make it, he had a work commitment, then we'll just need to get him excused. Okay. All right. If there's nothing further then, I will go ahead and adjourn to the regular meeting at 7 o'clock at 6:42. And call our regular city council meeting to order. Michaela, could we get a roll call, please?
Sure. Councilmember Zeter. Councilmember Hanse.
Present.
Councilmember Byrd. Councilmember Redding.
Here.
Councilmember Morgan.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Galloway.
Here.
And Mayor Andrus.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. Next, we have agenda item number 3, which is a pledge of allegiance. I'm going to request that everyone please rise and join me in saying the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Agenda item 4 is an approval of agenda. So under 4A, we have an approval of the regular council meeting agenda for June 13th, 2022. We did briefly discuss this at study session, and there were no additions, corrections, or amendments to tonight's agenda. So could I please get a motion to approve? It
Motion
has-
to approve, I wasn't on, sorry.
Thanks, Mike. And Roger had supported. So all those in favor of approving tonight's agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have agenda item 5, which is an approval of minutes. Under 5A, approval of the study session minutes from May 23rd, 2022. Council, did you see any additions, corrections? Staff, did you receive any notification? No? Seeing none, could I get a motion to approve as presented, please?
So move.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. 5B is an approval of the regular meeting minutes from May 23rd. Council and staff, same questions? Any additions, corrections, amendments to those regular meeting minutes? Seeing none, could I get a motion to approve?
So move.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Under 5C, we have an approval of the special meeting minutes from May 25th. And council, as a reminder, this was that council training that our city attorney, Nick Curcio, provided for us. Did you see any additions or corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor, please oh, whoops, I need a motion first. Gonna get a motion to approve. All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have agenda item 8, which is public hearings and adoption of ordinance. Under 8A.1, we have a second reading, a public hearing, and an adoption of ordinance 503, which is to rezone that parcel that's listed there from the M1 manufacturing district to the R2 residential district. Staff, could you provide a report, please?
Sure, real quick, tonight is a second reading. At your previous reading, you had a first reading and scheduled a public hearing to rezone parcel 0351-251-04100, which is located on Low Street, across from some storage units and the Depot Hill Condo Association, to rezone it from M1 manufacturing to R2 residential district. You'll recall, this is the parcel that the city owns. We are selling it to ASA for their building trades program, so their students can have some real-life experience in constructing homes. And prior to that sale going through, ASA has asked us to rezone it, so everything is on the up and up with them.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions at all for staff regarding this ordinance? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and open the public hearing at 7:04. So I will invite anyone to come up to the podium that has anything to say about this ordinance for rezoning. Seeing no public comment, I will close the public hearing. And now I will entertain a motion to approve or adopt the ordinance 503 to rezone that parcel that Joel mentioned from M1 to R2.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Council, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no.
Abstain.
Motion carries. Next, we have agenda item number 9, which is public comment. And public comment is for items that are not on tonight's agenda. So if there is anyone in the public that would like to approach the podium and address council, you're more than welcome to do so. We just ask that you state your name and the address. Is there any public comment this evening? come on up. We don't typically interact, but we're happy to.
Okay, my name's Brett Metamar. I'm on 247 North Street. I live right behind the JC Bridge, the Trestle Bridge. I just kind of wanted to know what was going on with that. I spoke with Bill for a minute at the Bridge Fest thing. I was just curious what is happening with that, as it is closed at the moment.
Okay. Well, I can feel like I can give you a factual statement that
Is-
it is going to remain closed.
It is?
To some safety concerns.
Okay. I know, I watched the video from the last minutes. Is there an engineer report? Is that public knowledge to look at?
Yep, you can do a FOIA request to the city. So that was presented, Joel, no?
An easier way is to go on our city website and look at under
Oh, it's on our
agendas.
packet.
It's in our packet.
Okay.
And-
City website?
City website, agendas and minutes, go to city council for the state, and it's in the study session packet. Or you just email City Hall and we can email it to you as well.
Okay.
You don't have to go through a full FOIA request for that.
That's a lot of work, so.
Okay, but so it's gonna be closed until it gets fixed?
Until further notice, yeah. We can't say exactly when at this point.
That's terrible.
Indeed it is.
You're paying.
But it keeps you safe, because there's a lot of unknowns on it, and the report wasn't good, so at this point,
It
we're
sounded
gonna,
like he okayed it for pedestrians. He didn't? It sounded like it was even light ORV use that would be okay.
I would suggest looking at this most recent
Yep.
packet from the study session from today. There is a
Oh,
pretty
did it?
thorough memo that the engineer provided for us.
Oh, okay.
So,
That went
so that
over it.
might, yeah, that will probably explain a little bit better.
Okay.
And there
Okay.
was extensive conversation in the video from the study session, so if you found the previous one, I think this next study session, if you looked at that video, you'd have a
It'll
better
explain
impression of
more.
what's going on.
Okay,
Yeah.
all
We
right.
know it stinks.
Yeah, it's terrible. I'm the property owner right on the edge there where it hits the, the ground, and we use that every day to go to JC Park.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
All right, I guess I will look online for more information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any further public comment? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on down to agenda item number 11, which is reports from boards, commissions, and city offices. Under 11A, we have city boards, commissions, and area agencies. 11A.1 is a report from the Airport Advisory Committee. Peter?
All right, so we met, approved our previous minutes, got a little update or a little feedback from the credit union. They enjoyed their use of the airfield and enjoyed that there were some skydivers out when they were out having their block party. Got an update on the tree removals. There's a lot of trees to be removed that we need to get done. Most easements on I think it's the west side of Eastern, the closest side, we have easements there. We have to see if we have ability to remove trees or just trim them, and they're gonna be going out doing the survey to actually mark those and then go through all the easements to make sure what we can do, and then that can't be cut anyways until the fall because of the birds and the bats. So we wanna try to get something together before fall, I would want. And then there was just an update, receiving the bids for the crack seal and painting project this summer. So they had done the crack seal around the hangars last year, and so they're going out we're supposed to be sending out for bid to do the crack seal on the rest of the runways, and then we'll get that back and we'll bring that back to council once we get a bid and see where we're at.
Thanks, Peter. Did you have a question, Teresa? No, okay. Next, under 11A.2, we have the HDC Commission June meeting report. Dave?
Yeah, we had 3 applications altogether. One of them we had to table. We're waiting for a final design on that one. And then the study group met, and I would say at this point, we've completed kind of that first phase of the project like we talked about, and we did that in 4 meetings, so we're on track, and that was just defining current state. And now we're into the part of evaluating those findings of where we're at today and starting to put together a plan for how we can come back and present some of this to council along with options for how to move forward. But overall, the progress of the group has been really good. So everybody was really encouraged by that.
Okay, thanks, Dave. And actually, we were at Chapter 13 at our ordinance review, which is the HDC ordinance. And so we have skipped that, just waiting for an update. So I know the ordinance review group had kind of wanted to get that update if we could as soon as possible. So we know whether we need to, start revising that ordinance, if that's something the group is going to do, and just kind of see where the group's at. So is that something that, we can request the chair, Eddie, or Jason, I believe is vice chair for that group, to come in and give us a report for full council?
Full council's report on where the study group's at?
Yeah, what the status is of the group.
I can certainly talk, it was a discussion point at the last meeting, so we'll be talking about it in the next meeting. I can let them know that you're looking for a report to full council.
Yeah, we were looking for sometime in July. Was that right, Peter? Yeah.
Again, I think the goal would be to be able to provide a report that would include a path forward, right? So we're not just putting a bunch of problems on council's desk without any solutions.
Right, we just kind of wanted a report from them, and I know that council had requested an update, and then kind of wanted to have something solidified within, by the end of the year, so just kind of looking for a more, I guess, concrete report from that group, if we could.
I'll discuss it with the group, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Next, we have 11.8.3, which is the public spaces meeting update. Teresa?
Okay, our big discussion was, the Oakwood Cemetery rules. They brought Parker and Michaela, have worked very diligently with rules. Michaela is very familiar with cemetery rules and regulations and cleaning up. That was part of her previous job. Presented them. We had people from the public who are not happy with our rules. And the ultimate end was they tabled it again. There was 4 that wanted to table it and 3 of us that said, let's just get this over with. So it's not ready to come to council again. I don't know what they want to change, what they want to do. Part of it was, let's not have no rules. It's a mess. So anyway, that was our big discussion, mainly the whole meeting. There was a lot of positive over the cemetery tours that were given. I guess that was quite successful. And then just wanted to know about planting more trees out there and making the canopy effect, and it is Oakwood Cemetery, and, Other than that, that was about all we discussed in that meeting. Was the big thing was the cemetery rules. So I don't know how you guys feel about it, but maybe we need to be the forefront of this and say, this is what Parker and Michaela came up with. Maybe we need to look at them and present what we have to them.
Well, and this is another thing that the ordinance group had reviewed the cemetery ordinance, and there were just some components of that were kind of waiting also for those rules, so we can incorporate that into that ordinance, so.
Joel did mention that we need to mirror the two together, so I don't know, maybe if, like I said, council wants to take this up, look at what we have and go be the forefront of it and say, let's put this to bed. Here's our ordinance. These are what we come up with.
Would you say the group had settled on specific things that were still in question, or was it sort of like a general, we're just not ready to?
I took it in, Parker or Joel, Michaela, let me know if I'm wrong, but I took it as they heard a lot of negative comments from the public that was there and did not want to make rules to upset the people that were in the audience and the people who had spoke, is how I took it.
I think that's a fair assessment. I think that those that voted in favor of tabling the discussion also just needed, after being, presented with the information from the members of the public that were here, I think they wanted to take time to reflect on what they had heard that night, without making a decision right then, and needed to really absorb, that new information that they had gotten from, we had 3 members of the public present. So I think they just wanted some reflection between now and their next meeting. So I don't disagree, I think, with your assessment, Teresa. I do think this board, I've thought this before, but they're on the precipice, I think, of a final set of rules. So we'll see what transpires at their next meeting. But hopefully they'll have something for you sooner rather than later.
As a council, is there a deadline that we'd like to put to them to get these rules back to us?
I
I don't mind like one more month for them to kind of discuss and come up with things, but this has been a long time coming. And
And we're in
if
the
we can
middle
have
of
them just make a decision no later than the August meeting, so it can come up to us inUgust, I don't know, that would just be my
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah,
And
and
they
we're
already
in the-
met for June.
Right,
So
so
the next
I would
meeting
say
is
July, so it
the
would be
second Wednesday in
August before
August.
we could,
You know, we're already
For
in the middle
July.
of summer where everybody's already done their, most of their plannings and everything, but I think we need to seriously look at the cleanup period come November or December, whatever we decide there.
Yeah, I think it would be good to set a deadline, just to, just sometimes it's helpful to work against a deadline.
Teresa, just to piggyback on that, will you let your cemetery, I don't know who did the acting out on the, but they borrowed the chairs from the Masonic Lodge, and we actually got to talk with them, and a couple of us are gonna learn how to clean some of the headstones properly. And there's a lot of Masonic brothers that are buried out there, and we're gonna slowly take on that chore, because there's a lot of them, so.
and that's a different group, the Friends of Oakwood Cemetery
Yeah.
that does that.
Yep. Didn't Amanda touch on that, Parker? You know, Michaela's, I'm hearing Michaela's head shake, yeah. So they're aware that you guys are gonna do that, so.
Okay.
Very nice.
So would council be amenable to kind of putting a deadline of August for those rules to come back up?
I think so. I would.
Yeah? Down at the end of the table there, Bill, shake a head somewhere.
What?
Would you be all right with,
Oh, you didn't hear the rattling? I was saying yes.
okay. So if that can just be communicated to that group that we would like those rules to come up, they can discuss again in July, but then to please have them up to council by August. Thank you. Next, we have 11A.4, which is a report from the Downtown Development Authority, which I will provide. So we did get an update on the riverfront design. It was very clear that that was a concept design. So that was presented by Joel and Parker, and just the good work that that riverfront design committee has done. And AECom did that engineering for us. So lots of green space. The design looked really, really nice, but again, as we kind of touched on in study session, I think they said maybe like 15 years out. Is that what they said? Phil, wasn't it about 15 years?
1 to 15.
Yeah, just unknown when that's going to happen, so. But that was really, really appreciated to see that. We also talked about the downtown entrance signs, those Welcome to Allegan signs that have like faded and aren't looking so good. DDA approved, I think it was less than $1,000, 900 and something dollars to get those 2 signs just redone, and update the logo a little bit. I think we were going to do that.
Are they
Parker.
gonna be done the way, in their current fashion or with our new logo?
Parker was gonna maybe design something in, what did you say, 23 seconds? Oh, minutes, okay.
Yeah, there's some room for some creative liberty to update what we've got currently, but this is something that will be in place for maybe a couple of years before a full wayfinding program is, done throughout the entirety of the city. So these will be temporary placeholders for a few years until
I
then.
just feel like we've kind of got a new branding of the city, and it'd be, I've always or I've thought, since that's happened and this logo's come around, that it would be nice to incorporate that, so it's all, so anyway, I just was wondering.
So the actual total for those two signs was $942.57.
Thank
Then we also talked about the downtown refuse plan. That was brought up by some members of the DDA, and we did get a bid back for construction of the enclosures, which was really expensive. So the thought is to kind of maybe incorporate that into streetscape bid or something. Yep, and then we talked about the streetscape a little bit, so kind of the same update that we had here about grant funding. That was about it from the DDA, unless I missed something, staff. Okay. All right, so moving on down, we have 11B, which is our finance department. 11B.1 is a request to approve accounts payable and payroll. Teresa.
We have accounts payable in the amount of $466,485.90, and payroll in the amount of $224,975.25, for a total disbursement of $691,461.15. Make a motion to approve.
I so move.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Was there any questions or discussion regarding accounts payable and payroll? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have 11B.2, which is a request to adopt Resolution 22.26, which is third quarter budget adjustments. Tracy, are you going to take that one?
Yep. A lot of the adjustments in here, like the second quarter, are just adjustments that need to be made based on council meetings and actions that were taken from January to March. The biggest one being the bridge. Everything else is adjusting things to actual. There are, obviously, we still have the fourth quarter left, and very few budget adjustments. Joel and I looked at it a little bit today, so I don't anticipate there being anything major in there. But then we'll be at $2.8 million as of these budget adjustments. And then besides that, unless you guys have any questions.
And our fiscal year ends June 30th, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll
Yep.
start July 1.
Yep.
New budget cycle.
So the third quarter adjustment includes the Iron Bridge?
It includes the Iron Bridge, not the change order that we did in May.
Okay,
That'll happen in the fourth quarter, so the extra, what was it,
180 plus.
180 something? That'll be on the fourth quarter budget adjustment sheet.
Now, with that Iron Bridge adjustment, is there any other contingency funding for that project? Like, are we gonna see every adjustment after that?
If there was a change order, you guys would approve it before we would tell them to go forward with it, unless it's,
No, that you will, because our purchasing ordinance requires anything more than 10% of the contract cost cumulatively has to come to city council, and that 180 plus was more than 10%. So moving forward, if they say we need another gallon of paint, I have to bring that to council.
Okay. And there's no like extra contingency budgeted for that? Everything from here comes out of general fund?
fund balance, yep.
Okay. All right.
Were there any other questions about the third quarter, or third quarter budget adjustments? Okay, seeing none, could I get a motion to adopt resolution 22.26?
So move.
I'll support.
Second.
It has been moved and supported. If there's no further discussion, council, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Under 11B.3, we have a request to adopt resolution 22.27, which is authorizing the fourth quarter budget adjustments. Tracy?
And this is just, gives me permission to make these adjustments before June 30th, or for June 30th, before the auditors get here. And, then we're in balance for the fiscal year end. So it just gives me permission to make those budget adjustments and then bring you guys the report.
And this is the one where the bridge,
The change order for the bridge will show up in that one, yes.
but we're not quite to the end, so there may be more?
Yeah, I wouldn't, it's one of those things, if something else happens and they discover something else, but I think we're far enough into the project,
Yeah,
Joel.
I'm not talking about the bridge, I'm just talking about,
Other projects.
Fourth.
Yeah, so we're required by the state of Michigan to have a balanced budget.
yeah.
And part of having the balanced budget is making the budget adjustments, whether that's revenue increases or expenditure increases or decreases, et cetera. So this is an annual resolution that council's passed forever, authorizing the finance director to make these budget adjustments for that fourth quarter in preparation for our audit, which happens in September of every year.
But we're not quite to the end of the fourth quarter, I guess is my question.
Correct. So we're not going to make these till post July 1st. Once the fourth quarter ends, so June 30th, then Tracy goes through the finances and makes the adjustments that are needed to make sure we end with a balanced budget.
Okay,
And then usually I bring the fourth quarter budget adjustment report to you guys when the audit is complete and I have all, if they have to make an adjustment of some sort. Normally what happens is if there's something that gets posted into one year or the other and it should be, vice versa, they make those adjustments and then, instead of submitting 2 reports, I just submit the one.
okay.
Council, were there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, could I get a motion, please, to adopt Resolution 22.27?
So move.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, under 11D, our Water Utilities Department, we have 11D.1, which is a request to approve the purchase order for HydroCorp Cross Connection Inspections in the amount of $43,488. Doug?
All right, so the city has had a cross-connection program for many years since the state required it. It is actually something that, I'll say, we don't spend a whole lot of time on. It's to protect the drinking water system from systems that, whether it's in households or industries, commercial businesses, from putting pressure back or water back into the distribution system and contaminating it. Essentially, the cross-connection program requires backflow devices on certain pieces of equipment or for certain industries. Residential can be for sprinkling systems, underground sprinkling systems. Hose bibs, outside hose bibs should have backflow prevention on them. And because we have not been doing a fantastic job at keeping this program up since it started, we looked into contracting this out. HydroCorp does this. They're one of the leading companies that does this. They also do the testing of backflow prevention devices. And we reached out to them of what they could provide to Allegan. They provided two-year contracts. One contract looks at just industrial users, industrial and commercial users, and the other one looks at just residential users. The recommendation is to go with both contracts to have them look at, inspect the industrial, commercial users as well as the residential users. The contracts, let's see, so industrial, though, looks like they'll do 90 per year, and residential, they'll do a minimum of 165 per year. So our hope, our goal is get them in here for a couple of years, get the process, get a good program started, and hopefully after the 2 years, it may be at a point where we feel that, our staff can continue on and take over from them, or we may be asking for an addition of, another 1 to 2 years onto that to keep the program, going and moving forward at a good pace. In budgeting, we did put this in the budget, what was approved, so this is within budget starting in July.
Thank you, Doug. Council, were there any questions for Doug? Okay, seeing no questions, could I get a motion to approve the purchase order for HydroCorp?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next is 11D.2, which is a request to approve the purchase order change order for water treatment plant floor. in the amount of $6,075.92 for a total cost of $12,280.56. Doug?
Yes, back in September, council approved a purchase order for MSC to prep and recoat the floor in the MIAX or chlorine room of the water plant. They finally came in May. They started prepping, they ground the old finish off. What they found is there is moisture coming up in the concrete that's degrading the floor coating. What was quoted was an epoxy coating, I believe it was, and they said basically they could do it, but they would not warranty it because the moisture coming up from underneath will just ruin the bond between that coating and the concrete, and it'll just peel up again. What they're recommending is a urethane mortar. They showed me a sample of it, and it actually ends up being somewhere between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 inch thick mortar that they trowel on the floor that seals the concrete, and then they do a urethane coating over that. So that's the recommendation of what the floor should have as opposed to the epoxy coating that was on there and was originally quoted.
Thanks, Doug. Do we know what the water, like the moisture's coming from? Is it just the water table?
Because,
or-
well, it's not evident in other areas of the plant. I mean, it could be moisture from the ground coming up through there. My guess is because we have several leaks in the chlorine room, the chlorine just eats through the piping, the hoses that we use. It's probably water that's soaked in and is now, as it's being exposed, it's coming back up out of the concrete.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Doug?
I'm assuming that this coating that they would like to use is gonna last a lot longer than
They
the
will,
year.
yes, they will warranty, for a 5-year warranty on this coating.
Thanks, Teresa.
I mean, might be a silly question, but if it's gonna raise the floor 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, does that affect?
No.
Door swinging and?
No, everything, doors have more than a 1/4 inch, and all the equipment is up on maintenance pads, so
Doesn't affect it.
should not notice any difference.
I knew you thought of that already, I just thought I'd ask.
And this would come out of your fund balance, water department fund balance?
Yeah, there's money available for that yet in the water plant maintenance budget.
Okay, so it's just still a maintenance, it'll just be a change order for that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Could I get a motion then to approve the purchase order if there's no further questions?
So move.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have 11D.3, which is a request to approve the purchase order for Prein and Newhof for a water system reliability study, and that's in the amount of $14,000.
Yep.
Doug?
So the water system, the drinking water system has a reliability study. It's a engineering overview of the system that provides system flows, system pressures throughout the water system. So, it identifies areas where, we may need to increase water main size to maintain fire flows. Also, they're talking with building, the new school building, we're getting several questions about what's the flow, what's the pressure up in those areas, so they know, what can be provided, if it's sufficient for their fire flows. So the state requires that reliability studies be updated every 5 years. Ours was last updated in 2017, so it is due. I checked with Admin Marsh. They gave me a price, and then they said, we actually recommend that Prein and Newhof, who has done it many times for us, continue on because they have the whole database, all the modeling. The price that Marsh did give me was more than what the Prein and Newhof gave me, so I'm like, well, we'll stick with who has done it in the past.
Sounds good. Thank you for the update, Doug. Council, are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, could I get a motion to approve the purchase order for Prein and Newhof for the water reliability study?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, under 11D.4, we have a request to approve the purchase order for Doheny. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right.
Yes, it is.
Yes, in the amount of $444,000, and this is for the new vactor truck.
So, over the last 3 months, we asked for vactor truck or sewer cleaning. I should not say vactor because vactor is actually one of the brand names. Sewer cleaning trucks, manufacturers to come to Allegan. They brought trucks for demonstration. You know, we could see what we liked of each truck, what we disliked of each truck, and then, you know, we asked many questions. You know, initially our kind of goal was get a spec sheet, what do we want, and have them build a truck. Building a truck, because truck chassis are so far out on production, and then by the time they get the chassis to get the sewer cleaning equipment on, they're telling us that to build a truck is probably 18 to 24 months out. So, because our current truck still usable, but I have quotes that we had to put $30,000 to $40,000 in it to keep it running. We really don't want to wait 18 to 24 months. So, we asked the companies that brought the trucks in, is the demo truck available, or do you have other trucks on your yard that are available? You know, something within a couple of years of its used. Some of the companies lease out or rent trucks to either contractors or municipalities for short terms for usage. 3 of the companies gave us prices of either the demo trucks or trucks that they have available. One company did not have anything available. They just said, you know, all we have is, you know, spec sheet and build it. One truck that was proposed to us, I'll mention because it is different than what we are recommending to purchase because it was a single axle. Our current truck is a single axle. What was proposed was a smaller truck, similar to what we have now, but the water pump, the pressure pump for rotting or cleaning the sewer system was a triplex pump, meaning it runs very smoothly. For sewer cleaning, we prefer what's called a single stage pump or a piston pump, so that when that pump cycles, it gives a surge in that rotor hose. And talking with the guys that are out there, you know, doing this, they're like, that's what we need for cleaning sewers. If you don't have that surge, it's very hard to break through some sewer clogs. So we asked that manufacturer, can the pump be changed? And they said no. The way it's built and configured on the truck, that pump cannot be, you know, changed on that pump. So I believe I have it listed on my memo, but it is, you know, one we're not recommending for that factor. What is being recommended is a vactor truck from Jack Doheny. It meets all of our, what we figure are our specs, what we are looking for in a sewer truck. The one thing I will mention is, as the picture shows, that is a picture of the truck. It is white, so it would match our current fleet, but it is a tandem axle, so it is probably 8 feet longer than our current truck. I've talked with Doug at the DPW, with Jeff up there, and they are not real happy with me, but we figure we can find room for it someplace up there in the garage. It may mean in the back cold storage that either vehicles get moved over to that, or we put a little insulation in there and a small heater that this truck would be in there. So, you know, I wanted to mention that it is pushing our limits for space for housing this. In the summertime, we keep it down at the wastewater plant, but in the wintertime, it does need to be in because there is water, there's in tanks, in pipes, so we have to keep it from freezing. Couple other things to mention. This truck, it is listed as new. It has been in the Doheny rental fleet. So it has been used, but it's never been sold. It does come with an extended warranty that covers parts and labor. The extended warranty is through November 16 of 2026. So it's about a little over a 4-year warranty on the truck yet. One thing Doheny is offering, and we can have more discussions internally with Joel and Tracy, but I wanted to mention to council is they're offering a buyback contract. So basically, we purchase it now, and in 5 years, they buy it back from us and we get a new one. It's kind of kickstarting the asset management for this type of truck. I asked them and they said, we can discuss and make our minds up in the next 60 to 90 days. But, it's just something to keep out there. Last is our current truck. We asked what would trade-in on this truck be towards this new one. Because our truck is a 2006, they really don't want it. They offered $10,000. Before they told me 10,000, I told them I wanted 44,000 because that's how much this truck is over budget. They said, sorry, we can't do it because of the age, because of what they see they would have to put into the truck in order for them to resell it. They come up with 10,000, and they actually said they would recommend bringing it to an auction house instead of trading it in. On that note, Councilmember Hanse had sent us a vactor truck he actually saw in auction a couple weeks ago, almost identical to ours. It was actually 3 years older. It was a 2003 model. Ours is a 2006. I don't know the condition. It was, looks like the previous owner was Ann Arbor. So it was a municipal truck. That truck sold last Thursday for $69,000. So, in my memo, I'm asking if we purchase, we also declare the current one surplus, and we'll bring it to an auction company probably up in Grand Rapids for disposal.
Thanks, Doug, and thanks for that information to Doug, Peter. That was gonna be my question, is what we thought that this truck, our used truck might
I'm
get.
not gonna say that we'll get 69. My goal is 44. Before, seeing all this, Sean and I, talking, we figured somewhere around the 35 to 40,000 is what we would expect to get out of resale out of it.
Thank you. Council, did you have any questions for Doug about the vector truck purchase?
The warranty you're talking about, Doug, is that everything
They said it is
or just some
parts
engine
and labor is what they
on
they
the
said.
whole truck?
On the whole truck, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm sure, like tire wear, brake wear, the normal wear parts are not included in that, but the stuff that would not normally wear out would be covered.
So once you get the new truck, then you would declare the old truck surplus?
So,
Would that automatically happen then, or?
yes, yep, the way the memo was written, if we purchase this one, the old one is declared surplus. We don't want to get rid of the old one till we get the new one,
Right.
but this being on-site, at Doheny on the east side of the state, I would expect delivery within a couple weeks at least.
Thank you, Council. Were there any further questions for Doug?
So, is the decision about the 5-year buyback, is that something that staff discusses, or is that something that we have to decide?
I brought it to council so you're aware of it. I think it's something that staff should discuss first. And if we think it's a good idea, we can bring back to council. But it is a contract that Doheny is asking to be signed.
So we will bring it back to council.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it falls in line with our new pattern of
Yes.
keeping our vehicles
Yeah.
up to date.
My only concern, because they put a price on there, they're offering 177,000 and some change buyback. My question is that a fair price in 5 years? I don't know. Depends on how much wear we put on it. Our goal is, we are out there using it 3 days a week. In the upcoming lead service replacement, it will be used for potholing. If there's areas where there's other utilities in the ground, instead of using a mini excavator or backhoe, we use that for hydro excavating. So it will be used, quite a bit for the next few years. So, and that's one of the reasons we want a new one. Ours is worn out, but, we plan on using it. So right now, personally, I don't know if I would say I would go with the buyback agreement, because I don't know if that's a fair market value for that truck. But we will discuss internally and bring it back to council at some point.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, then I will entertain a motion to approve the purchase order in the amount of $444,000.
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion, council? I seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Real quick, just to be transparent, we also need a motion to declare the existing truck surplus. Even though I'm sure it was inferred in the motion, we need it to be actually listed out,
Okay.
sorry.
Not a problem. That had crossed my mind and then flitted back out. Could I get a motion, please?
So move.
Thank you.
Support.
Thank you. All those in favor of declaring our Vactor truck that we own now as surplus, once we get the new truck, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Next, we're going to move down to 11F, which is city manager and city clerk. Under 11F.1, we have a request to approve an insurance counseling service agreement with Phil Siegler of Bart's Rumery to serve as the City of Allegan insurance consultant. And I see Phil is in the audience. So Joel, did you want to start with a report or?
Yeah, I'm just gonna speak. Phil's here if
Okay.
you have
Oh,
questions.
he's just here for questions.
Yeah, so we have an insurance counselor. Phil Siegler's been that individual for the past several years. Through this role, he evaluates, advises, and assists the city regarding our various insurance programs, requirements, secures quotes for us, which we'll be discussing on the next agenda item, as well as various insurance coverages. Phil's a phone call away, and he stops in often to check in on us, answer questions we might have. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. One thing we want to be clear is, Phil does not get a commission for our insurance business. It's just a straight flat, fee of $4,500. And staff's recommending that you approve this contract.
Thank you, Joel. Council, were there any questions for staff or for Phil Siegler, who is in the audience?
Phil, it's my understanding that you're certified to work with the cities. Not everybody is in the insurance industry. Is that correct?
I have my insurance counselor's license.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. And you have been doing it for a number of years with the city of Allegan.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
Could you speak quickly to the liability insurance that we have for the dam? If anything would break on that?
Phil, can you come to the microphone so that people at home can hear you? Thank you.
There is, well, I guess the basic two parts, there are 3 parts. There is liability coverage on the dam, or the dam is included in the city's liability insurance. There is an exclusion for the walkway that goes across the dam due to the condition of it. And that's been in place for, gosh, time goes so quick, probably at least 4 or 5 years. And then the powerhouse, that is specifically excluded as well due to condition.
What about the part of that powerhouse that's holding back water right now?
Excluded due to the condition of the powerhouse itself.
So-
And that's determined through every year, every fall, there's a state, every fall or every 2 years, I think every 2 years, there's a state inspection that's done, specifically on the dam, including the powerhouse, and that's a result of that from a few years back.
Every 2 years?
Yes. And I don't recall for certain, I want to say last year, that inspection was the most recent inspection, but I'm not certain of that. I didn't bring that information with me, but yes, every 2 years it's done by the state.
Okay. Which state organization does that?
I would have to get back to you on that. I've got a copy of inspections from the past, but I don't recall right offhand what department does it.
We received a report from 2020 that referenced a 2017 report, but there might have been a gap in there or something. So I would anticipate another report coming through this year that would tell us.
If it was 19, if it was, you say it was referring to 19?
2020 referred to a
Referred to a 19
2017
and-
report.
A 17, so it would have been 19, yeah, and 21 again, fall of 21. No, it would have happened
No.
last year, yeah, fall of 21. So 23 would be the next.
Phil, the report I'm looking at, that was done by Lucas A. Trumbull, professional engineer with the Water Resource Division of Eagle. The inspection date was on July 28th, 2020, and the report was compiled on December 29th, 2020. So it's
Okay.
probably scheduled this summer by Eagle.
So, yeah, yep,
Would be the department.
thank you.
You are welcome.
Thanks, Phil.
Sure.
Were there
Motion
any
to
other?
approve.
Thank you, Mike. Could I get a support, please?
Support.
It hasn't been moved and supported. All those in favor of approving the insurance counseling agreement with Phil Siegler, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have 11F.2, which is a request to approve the renewal of various policies held by the City of Allegan.
Yeah, so annually, we bring the renewal of the policies to the council for your approval. Staff's report included a summary of the renewals as well as the individual proposals and invoices for them, so you can see how the numbers lined up. Our total premium is $159,636. That covers our airport, drone, all of our buildings through the City of Allegan minus the powerhouse and the catwalk, the building authority buildings, which is the Regent Theater, City Hall, the Riverfront restrooms, and the Griswold Auditorium, and Positively Allegan for the events they offer.
Is that the airport also?
Yeah, so the airport's a separate policy.
Okay.
And there's also a separate UST policy for the airport.
Yeah,
That's
underground
not
storage
included in
tank.
this.
Not in this one yet.
And there was one other comment I was going to add. Oh, the other thing, last year we purchased for the first time cyber insurance, and that is not included in this packet yet because with all the cyber activity that's going on, the renewal rates that came in were much higher than expected, and they're shopping. They're still shopping that insurance, so I would expect, I'll be talking with staff about what they find, and should have a recommendation by the next meeting for that.
Are we going to have a gap in coverage?
I'm sorry?
Or will there be a gap in coverage?
No, this policy, this coverage, last year, or the year and a half ago, I think, last year, we turned everything into a July 1, a fiscal year policy period. So that cyber insurance took effect July 1 of '21. So there won't be a gap in coverage should we decide to continue it.
Okay.
But I don't have numbers now. All I know is that the numbers that came in were higher than expected by the agent. So they're shopping it and trying to find adequate coverage at both a reasonable price, and also their different companies have different expectations of what you do to prevent yourself from having an
Correct.
incident.
Yeah.
So they're trying to find both reasonable pricing and reasonable coverage requirements.
Yeah.
So that should be, I would expect that would happen. We just, Carl, I went over a lot of information with Carl and with Tracy just last week, and with a new application, you would think they'd all be the same, but it's amazing to me how different this one was. So I would expect to hear some numbers back later this week, or maybe the first of next. So something we'll have answers before your next council meeting, before the end of the month.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sure of that,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you, Phil. Were there any other questions for staff or Phil? Okay, could I get a motion, please, to approve the renewal of those various insurance policies?
So move.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion
Recuse
carries.
myself.
Thank you. We have one abstention. Motion carries.
Not a statement on me, but understandable. It's an understandable one. Yeah. I'll get in touch with staff tomorrow then for signatures.
Thank
If
you.
you're available, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Next, we have 11F.3, which is a request to authorize the installation of a boat ramp at the water treatment plant to allow for access to the Kalamazoo River for environmental monitoring and public safety access. Staff.
Thank you, Mayor Andrus. We've been approached by Wood Environmental. They are doing the environmental studies for Georgia Pacific as part of the Superfund investigation for the Kalamazoo River in this section, which I believe is Region 5 or Section 5 of the Kalamazoo River. There's not a safe place for them to load a boat, below the dam and then before the Trestle Bridge. So they approached the city and asked if we would be interested in having a boat ramp installed at the water treatment plant. They met with staff on site. They are, as the staff report mentioned, they will pay for all costs associated with this, including the permitting through Eagle. And then Doug and I just felt it was appropriate to bring this to council since it's an improvement on a property that you own, even though there's no cost associated with it. We usually don't bring, is it okay if we mow grass or plant trees or stuff like that? But we figured this was, a little more meatier, and we should bring it to council for your discussion. All in all, we think this is an excellent private-public partnership. And the fact that they're willing to allow us to use it also for public safety. Right now, our Allegan Fire District uses the lowlands at the J.C. Park, the unimproved lowlands, to access this part of the river, and this will be a much safer access point for them.
Thank you, Joel.
You had said before the Trestle Bridge, the water treatment plan is after?
No, the water treatment plant is before the Trestle, the wastewater treatment plant. So this is the water treatment plant where the wells are,
Okay.
our drinking water. And if I said wastewater treatment plant, I
No,
apologize.
no, I think you were right. I was
Okay.
just wrong in my thinking.
That's all right.
It happens.
Teresa, did you have something?
Will this be a public?
No.
Boat? Okay,
This will only
Just
be
be-
for
okay.
emergency services, City of Allegan, the sheriff's department, their dive team, the Allegan Fire District, and what the rafts they have, and for Wood Environmental for the community or the environmental studies they're doing.
So it'll be blocked off or something?
Yeah, so it's behind the fence
Okay.
and it's
I
gated
didn't-
in. So we have a gate at Park Drive at the cul-de-sac. And then they're gonna build in a crushed, an access drive to this fence, and then we'll have another gate at our
Okay,
fence.
so it's in, okay.
Yeah.
Yep, gotcha.
Yeah, it sounds like a great marriage, so.
Yeah.
I don't see
And,
a
and no
downside.
cost, those are good words.
No cost today, there's future cost to maintain it because it becomes ours after this. And then the next question is liability. Do we have coverage for if somebody's injured on this boat ramp? Because since it's a private / public,
Yeah.
it's not only,
So the agreement that we're gonna have with Wood Environmental is one where they indemnify the city,
okay.
and they submit a certificate of insurance listing the city as additional insured for our standards with our insurance agency, which is something Phil continuously reminds us to do. When I say he advises us, that's part of his advising often.
Any other questions, council?
Well, being excited about this, I will make a motion to approve such.
Awesome. I didn't even have to ask for it. Thanks, Mike.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion, council? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have agenda item 13, which is communications from city manager, council, and mayor. Joel, did you have anything tonight?
Yeah, real quick, just to update council on stuff I've done since our study session. I've instructed the DPW to put no trespassing signs on the Trestle Bridge, as well as update the signage to say that it's closed for safety reasons. I've instructed our DPW to secure a structural engineer to look at the powerhouse, more than just a dam inspection. We'll get an actual structural engineer into that powerhouse, so we can be a little more confident in its current status. I've instructed our DPW to have Scott Engineering, who was here this evening, do an evaluation of the pedestrian boardwalk over what I call the lagoon near the library. I'm gonna steal Parker's thunder. You all received an email from me on Thursday about the ARC community dance picture I took, which was really, really, I think, what makes this community a wonderful place to live. On Friday, if you didn't get a chance, you would have saw about 300 people on the riverfront for Rolling on the River. I sent an email to council this evening, the Carrie Lynch Band, which was the band on Friday night. Just Parker and Ryan, an email just thanking them for their professionalism. It's always a pleasure when they come here, and this is one of the spots they really enjoy to perform at. In addition to that, we are probably going to be closing off the riverfront parking area during Rolling on the River. We are going to make all the parking spaces off Brady handicap accessible. We'll put signs up there that handicap parking only, so we have a place for handicap people to get to the riverfront. But we have so many people coming for these concerts. We have kids and dads playing Frisbee in the turnaround. We have 2 businesses down there that requested that we close it off last Friday night in the middle of it. I'm like, well, it's kind of late now. There's cars down here already. But it's just some of those, pivots that we have to make in our lives, And so we're going to make those decisions, making council aware of that. We're making those decisions. And then Bridge Fest, a lady in town who is a critic of most of the things that happens here made a beeline to Parker and I to say this is one of the best Bridge Fests she's ever had, and we did a great job. So just that good community spirit, all around is, I think really positive, and, it's a good thing about this town.
Thanks, Joel. Parker, did you have any thunder left that you wanted to share?
Nothing. No,
stole it all.
Completely deflated. No, Rolling on the River has kicked off, and it was a very successful first week. So those will continue every Friday night down the riverfront. Bridge Fest overall was a success in our eyes. We estimate, it's hard to estimate with an event like that, an all-day thing, but we're thinking somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 people were enjoying downtown Allegan throughout the day. We'll get final numbers, budget numbers, and our final debrief meeting later this week. And then, as you can see, Fork in the Road started tonight and seems to be another successful start to another successful event. And that'll continue through the end of August this year rather than ending in July. So. And then also the Free Summer Matinees started at the Regent Theater today, and had over 100 people there at the movie theater for Tom and Jerry started this week. So, and those will continue for 10 weeks throughout summer break. So lots of fun stuff happening today, or this weekend was the start of it all.
Wonderful. Michaela or Tracy, Doug, anything? Nope.
I'm sure you guys all heard about Jim Richardson passing, and I just wanted to say that, because he was a constable for how many years? A long time, so. But rest in peace, Jim.
Yeah, is there?
Sorry to
could we
hear
send
that.
a
Is
card
that
from the
a
city?
position we need to appoint somebody?
We have Charlie that comes.
Charlie ran.
He was was elected at the.
It's former constable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Jim was.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
What did you say, though?
I was just wondering if the city should send like a card or flowers or something.
Yeah, we could do that.
Would be good.
Yeah.
If you guys want, Michaela and I can try to get something if you guys want to
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
give
Yeah,
Venmo
Yep.
me or
Please,
whatever, but we'll figure that out.
yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to donate for that.
yeah.
Doug, anything from you?
Doug, didn't you take enough from us already?
I want to report on something I took from you a couple weeks ago.
Nice.
So, probably actually 2 council meetings ago, I was not able to attend. Sean was here, asked for I'll say a blanket PO to purchase equipment for lead service replacement. Just wanted to update council that, I don't know, week and a half ago, we were able to find and purchase a directional drill with a mud system and a trailer and a locator. That was $90,000 for all those pieces of equipment. So, and we had notice this morning that it was shipping from South Dakota to here, so hopefully it will be here within this week. So currently, we're looking for a mini excavator and then a supply trailer. So we're well on our way. We have hired 3 new staff for that crew for replacing the lead services. They started a couple weeks ago, just before Memorial Day. They started. The crew is working really well. They're, I'll say, meshing real good between themselves and with current staff. So it looks like we've made some really good hires. On that note, I wanted to let council know that Ricky Jennings is retiring. His last day will be this Friday. And if you would like, we are throwing him a fish fry going away retirement party. So that'll be at the wastewater plant from 11 to 1. We'll be frying fish. On Friday? On Friday, yep. So yeah, you're welcome to stop down, have some fish, and say congratulations to Ricky. So with that note, we actually have 1 interview scheduled for this Thursday to fill a vacancy in that. How it all works out, we'll wait to see because we already have 3 new operators on staff, but we'll be 1 short at this point, so. Just wanted to let council know on those
Thanks, Doug.
updates. Yep.
Oh, Diana. Mike, anything from you?
Sure. I've already talked to Doug and told him, at first it worried me because I saw a couple trucks out in front of my house with the lights blinking and it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? End of the world. Hope they're not coming for me, all that good stuff. And we go out there and Sean and Manny were out front locating shut-off valves and GPSing them in. And I told Doug, I said, the beautiful thing that I saw is we talked for a moment, a couple other neighbors came out and they talked and Sean explained everything, how it was gonna go down. And then the house next door to me, I got to witness Sean was right there teaching Manny how to do things. It was such a beautiful thing because he was explaining to him, we want to put it on this setting. And if you got this situation, you want to put it on this setting. And it's just like, it made me happy to hear that we are training the employees, at least on the water side. I witnessed it. And congratulations for good supervisors. Treat them well.
That's great to hear. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for sharing. Anything from you, Peter?
Nothing today.
Teresa?
Just a couple things. Reminder, next meeting, we won't have our study session.
But we will have an ice cream truck.
Stay tuned for, I love Parker's little.
I don't think so.
Craft he put on Facebook. That's awesome. So we know where's what. And then, probably Delora wrote it down too, but I talked to Scott from the ORVs last night on the phone, and next Saturday, or this coming Saturday, June 18th, they're predicting around 100 ORVs come into town, and they're gonna park out here behind Pizza Hut. And he just told us tonight, they're giving away little raffle tickets for dollars spent in our downtown. So that's pretty cool
Yeah.
to have a group want to come into our little town and spend money and be into town, so. Exactly, really, right. So I thought that was very nice. And then we touched on this, but Scott also mentioned about a DNR grant for the bridge too, which I'm sure staff will be on top of that anyway. I do want to share, I enjoyed being in the tent down at Riverfront, or Bridge Fest. I had to put up with Roger and Dave, but it was okay. We had an older lady who had been in the community forever. Her first name was Pat. I did not catch her last name. She loved everything that was going on in town.
That would be Pat Broadhurst.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
She's a
You know,
peach.
and it was so cool to hear from an older, a lifetime resident, you know? Because usually, and I don't want to stereotype, but usually we are the ones complaining about, oh, you're doing away with this and you're getting rid of that. And she was really excited about what was going on in our city. So that was nice to hear. And actually, we didn't really have anybody come up and complain to us about anything. It was mostly compliments. So it was very good. So did a great job, guys.
Roger, anything from you?
Just reiterating, this whole weekend was a great weekend, thanks to the staff who put in a lot of hours, long days, especially Saturday. But I was just talking to Ryan, he said he figures between the 2 days, he had about 24 hours of work. But I know, Joel, you were there early and late, and you were too, Parker, and just thanks for that. And also, just the DPW was down there the week before, mulching everything and making everything look good. So the guys were working on the fountains, and there's just a lot happening with staff, and just appreciate all that hard work. It's it all comes together to make this all work, so we appreciate it.
Dave, anything from you?
Two things. First, I had the woman, I think her name was Robin from Red Cross, her tent. She came up and asked if she could set up a tent for July 3rd Jubilee as well, because they're making a big push looking for volunteers for various programs.
Yeah, Robin approached me during Bridge Fest, and we got
Okay,
to
good.
talking too. So, yep,
Good.
we'll have something coordinated with them. I know she was very eager to be a part of the parade as well, and having the Red Cross join the Jubilee Parade.
Yeah. And then, Tracy, I got your email on the general fund balance trend, and you guys are gonna get some more information. We're gonna have that prior to the discussion about moving forward for the streetscape. Do we know when we'll get that?
Not until we know in August when the bids come in and we know where we're standing on the cost.
So August is the big month when we're gonna see. Is there a reason we excluded the year 2 and 3 bond payments that we kind of estimated from the current trend?
Yes, that was because we were hoping we were planning for the donations, you know, and grants, that we wouldn't have to borrow money
The hope is that we don't have to bond at all?
for the general fund portion.
Okay. I'm struggling with like, that's a $2.5 million bond in the budget that we've got approved right now on a $5.2 million item, and
It's not really approved yet,
the budget?
the bond.
Yeah, but the budget's approved. We don't have to get into it right now if we're gonna get more information.
Yep.
I'm worried about the trend of the general fund, and I don't have confidence in what I'm seeing because I don't have enough information in front of me. So I have a concern about the budget right now.
Okay, yeah, and what we planned for the budget was to receive grants and use fund balance, which is why the fund balance is a bit higher than normal right now. We're at 2.8 is what we're predicting after the third quarter budget adjustments. Normal is 1 million, or 20%.
Normal is 1 million?
And right now, we're planning on using fund balance and planning on getting grants and donations.
Well, now I'm confused because we've got like the bond on there, that's half of it, and then we're talking about pulling from
The
the
bond is
fund
not in the
and-
budget you guys approved a notice of intent to bond, but then what would happen, just like with Doug's truck being 440,000, we would do a budget adjustment because it came in a little bit higher.
I don't get it. It's in the capital improvement section. There's a line item for a bond.
Right, and that's just where what we're assuming will come in, but if you look at the line, there, the capital improvement list shows all the projects that we have planned and how we plan to fund them.
And it lists a bond, like a $2.5 million bond. to
And
fund
that's
it.
the water and sewer side, not the general fund side. In there, it's all donations and grants.
Well, I'll have to get more information on this, because now I'm completely lost on how we're paying for this.
Grants, donations, and then the water and sewer bonds is how the budget reads.
Because we've already accepted the CWSRF, correct?
Right.
We did that as a council.
So why do we
Dave,
have
if-
this? Yeah.
The Clean Water Sinking Revolving Fund. So that's.
Yeah. I remember that bond, and I remember another bond, and then I remember a third bond for $4.5 million.
We never took
we
that
don't.
bond. That was the notice of intent in the
All of them are just,
newspaper.
yeah, all of them right now are just a notice of intent. But in the budget, we planned a bond payment for water and we planned a bond payment for sewer. But not for the general fund portion, because we were assuming that we would get grants, donations, and not have to use that. We went for the notice of intent for the 4.5 for the general fund to make sure, just in case the grants and donations didn't come in, that we would be able to do portions of it.
Well, why wouldn't we project then for a $4.5 million bond? Like if we're saying.
I'm sorry, but if you have like specific questions, I don't know if you and Tracy have, the opportunity to sit down and talk through those.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was my email, but I didn't get I guess we'll find more information out in August, and maybe it'll all make sense then.
That is what my email said, was that, it's hard to predict that, and I, with being behind with my surgery and all that, I didn't have time to look into what the debt schedule would be on the 4.5 million. We're not gonna borrow 4.5 million, but I didn't look up $1 million, 2 million, and 300,000, or 3 million, to see what those bond payments would come in at to be able to do that. I discussed it with Joel. We both, decided and responded that we would wait till we get better information to give him better information.
It's
So,
hard to provide information if you don't have it, but.
Right.
Bill, did you have anything tonight?
Just to thank everybody for showing up at the tent. It was nice, and it worked out what we wanted to do, to give our public more information, what we do. I thought it was great. Thank you, fellow council members. Except for Delora, she was
I
gone.
know, I'm sorry. Had that kind of planned prior to Bridgefest being planned. I did. Speaking of no study session, are we gonna have the tent up next meeting? And did we wanna do kind of similar, have a rotation of people sitting there, or?
We'll plan on having the tent up. I'll make sure it gets set up, and then I'll have Michaela coordinate with all of you about shifts, or however we want to divvy that up.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I
and
mean,
and maybe
even for- I
a
think- I
council
think you
member
guys-
one at a time can sit there like each, whatever, but
No more than 4.
no more than 3.
Yeah, no more than 3, you're correct. Thank you.
Okay, and the only thing that I was gonna mention is I was in Colorado end of last week and the weekend, and I was downtown Golden as well as SS Park. We did a lot of traveling, but they had, similar to what's in our streetscape plan, the planters with the seating on the outside. And they really didn't have any benches or anything. So I know that was one of those, value engineering options. But that everyone was just sitting along those walls.
Did you take pictures?
I didn't. I have a lot of pictures, but I don't know if I took exact pictures. And actually, the garbage cans were inside of them, which was interesting. But yeah, I may have taken a photo of that too, because I thought it was kind of cool. But no, that was all. So that's all for me. So we can adjourn at 8:19. Thank you, everybody. Be safe. Looks like the weather's moving.